Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is a year that is going to include some very powerful collective events, setting the stage, sowing the seeds for truly world changes that are going to be coming up next year in 2020, right out of the gate. Now, this year includes 3 powerful eclipses, several conjunctions. All of these are involving the south node of the moon. You add to this, we've got another lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse and a harmonious dance throughout the year between Saturn and Neptune, Jupiter dancing with Neptune as well. Well, you can see that it is going to be eventful. It is going to be important. And how important it is truly is rare. We are living in rare times. But ultimately, it is this year that is going to help us to remember what it is that truly matters beyond the superficial and help us to connect to a spirit of truth within us, knowing that every step of the way we are guided, we are shown new paths and new directions. Now, before I dive into what is coming up for this year, which is a good discussion that we are about to have, that I've been thinking about for a while, I first want to say, remember, towards the end of this video, there will be preview horoscopes for each and every sign. I like to start the special horoscope by giving an overview. Preview horoscopes are at the end, and also the preview horoscopes are on my Instagram, Nadiya_Shah. And of course, if you want to watch the entire video for your sign, you can log on to nadiyashah.com. You can sign up to be one of my superstars who get unlimited access to all the special horoscopes that I put out, or you can download them as individual files as well at my website, nadiyashah.com. A lot of the articulations that I'm going to share with you here today, I want to give a shout out. I want to give credit to Cosmic Intelligence Agency. Very recently, I did a talk online about 2019 and the role of the nodes and the South Node in particular. We, the participants there, myself, the organizer, we created a safe space together. And there was a lot of back and forth and a wonderful conversation. And so it was that conversation that helped me to further articulate and flesh out some of the things that I am going to be sharing with you today. And so I do want to say thank you to all the people who attended and who did share in real time with me, because chances are if you attended that talk, you'll hear little bits here and there that are familiar based on what we all shared together very recently. So thank you to everybody who attended. So there are a few big events happening here that are going to speak to the collective. But before I dive in, I want to give it a little bit of context. Now, as you know, if you've been watching me for a while, I am not one to be controversial in any way. That's not my intention. That's not anything I'm wanting to do. I am, someone very much who cares about unity and bringing us together. I'm going to talk a little bit about some historical things, touching on it like just for a couple of minutes. And I want to also acknowledge that some of the things I'm going to be sharing, there are people who have like literally dedicated their lives exploring these topics historically, philosophically, and these are topics that literally we could talk about for years and years on end. A short YouTube video, and especially just the couple of minutes I spend now, might not necessarily do it justice, but I am going to touch on a few historical factors as we consider how that will be reflected in this year. And so, again, before I dive in, a lot of people out there have heard about 2020, right? 2020 is a big year, astrologically speaking. We are going to have what is called the triple conjunction, which is Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. It is that Saturn and Pluto conjunction that is especially powerful. And even though these planets do meet in the sky once every 40 years or so, the last time that they met in the sign of Capricorn, which is a sign that is very important to our discussion today, the last time they met in this part of the sky was 500 years ago. And whenever they do meet, it indicates a time of a shift of power, and who has the power and how we collectively understand power. And it also represents a shift in the structures that guide our world. And so the last time, 500 years ago, that conjunction denoted the beginning of what we today call the Protestant Reformation. And so what is that? Well, that was partly or hugely influenced by the work of Martin Luther. And it was in some ways a revolution against the Catholic Church. But instead of diving in and getting too meticulous as to all the different factors, I want to say nothing exists in a vacuum. It's not like one day some dude got up and wrote these theses and said, okay, this is it, and I'm going and I'm stapling it to a church door. But rather, there's a rumbling. The shifts have already been taking place. The change has already been transpiring. And in order for societies to welcome in new chapters, first there has to be that sense of what isn't working. And those seeds are normally planted well before the beginning of the change takes place. And so I would state, and I'm certainly not alone in this, and again, I know that this is something that could open a whole can of worms. I'm not trying to do that. But it could be said that it was the Protestant Reformation that created a change of power that has laid at the root, at the seat of the world that we have created today and the modern world as we understand it. It was the Protestant Reformation, and partly guided by this idea of a revolt against what are called indulgences. And so basically the Catholic Church at the time was doing this thing where if you paid enough money, you were forgiven of sins and thereby sort of guaranteed a place in heaven. And we had this idea of priests being the intermediaries of the gods. And this was actually something that was a part of humanity in many different religions around the world. This idea that priests or astrologers or diviners in some way are the people who interpret the will of the gods, or that you have to go through in order to connect with the divine. And it was the Protestant Reformation, Protestant Revolution that said, your own interpretation matters. Your own relationship to the divine is something that is deeply personal and is up to you. And as such, you don't need someone else to interpret lines in a sacred script, which is in a different language that you don't understand. You don't need someone else to tell you what those lines mean, but you can read it in your own language. You can decide for yourself how you're going to interpret sacred texts. And this idea was revolutionary at the time. But we can look at the way in which the philosophy of Protestantism lent itself to this whole idea of we have free will. We decide what our lives are going to be. The Protestant work ethic being at the foundation of modern capitalism. This idea of manifest destiny being at the foundation of how the whole approach towards colonialism changed as well around the world. Well, it really begins with the Protestant Reformation. Again, I know that could be a little bit controversial, and there are very learned people teaching in universities who could tell you a lot more about that, and I would encourage you to go have a look. But I was contemplating some of this, and I was considering some of this in light of where it is that we are now in 2019. Because in 2020, we are having these mirrors take place astrologically to what was happening with the work of Martin Luther and what really gave rise to this whole new way of understanding power in a way that we just had not before. And how much of it was truly about restructuring societies and restructuring the world and who had the power. But that came just after, that shift came just after a period where people started realizing what wasn't working. And it is a year like this in 2019 where, as a collective, we may see examples of what it is that isn't working. Now, there are, of course, personal applications to this as well, right? We can see it right on the surface. If it wasn't for this idea that we have our own relationship with the divine, well, that gives way to this idea of having your own inner authority and honoring your own inner authority, which is at the foundation of the New Age movement. And I do think guides a lot of astrologers today in modern Western astrology. So there are a lot of implications that we feel in our own personal lives as well. We as well, ideas, yes, social movements, yes, don't exist in a vacuum, but neither do we, right? We are not these isolated random creatures, but rather we are shaped by our environments and our culture and our families, and in addition to the stars. Now, this idea that we are shaped as much by our culture and our family and our time, as well as the stars, is actually something articulated by Ptolemy in his book Tetrabiblos, which is considered the foundational text to Western astrology. It's about 2,000 years old, and you can read that online, and I would invite you to read that as well. So here we are in 2019. And a lot of what I'm seeing as I look at this sky is that we are going to become aware of where it is that we in our own individual journeys have given away our power, and to whom and to what. In some ways, we can look at this collectively as a sort of restructuring of even the corporate world, sort of a Me Too movement of the corporate world. Now that articulation, that right there, the Me Too connection, that actually also came from the conversation that I had online with the Cosmic Intelligence Agency webinar participants. So thank you to them for that as well. But it is this sense now that we start to become aware of where we've given away our power in our own lives, what power is going to mean to us, and where it is that there's been too much power as a collective and that isn't working for us as much anymore. And so as part of this, the huge, most powerful spiritual tool we have is surrender. That really is it. It is rooting ourselves in faith and trust, because ultimately what it is that the universe is encouraging us to do is to see through the superficial, to realize what really matters, what is eternal, what is at the essence, and what is the truth, what's behind the scenes. Let's lift the curtain and look at what is within, again, our own lives, within the lives that we've built, what we've pursued. What do we determine as our ambition? What motivates us in that direction? And is it coming from a place of our own wounds, or is it that we genuinely feel that we have an honest contribution to make in a particular field or in a particular area? These are very valuable questions, because this ultimately determines how honest your ambitions truly are. And where it is that things have been murky and things have been not so clear, we thought things were a certain way, but that was just an illusion, the reality isn't so, we are going to see that truth at several points throughout this year. At the same time, though, because we have this beautiful, harmonious connection between Neptune and Saturn, Neptune and the South Node, repeating throughout the year, with these planets, Saturn and Neptune, dancing throughout the year, what this suggests to me is that we will find faith, we will find inspiration, but more importantly, we are going to find a new compassion for ourselves and for each other. And we are going to connect to what it is that truly matters. Now, the way that I articulate that, what truly matters, is love and wisdom. That's the way I describe an energy. And we could think of that energy as something that is eternal, or the part of ourselves that is divine. It is remembering our true nature. April, July, and September are key moments that we are going to want to watch, with April being especially noteworthy. And that is because these are the times when Saturn will exactly conjunct the South Node of the Moon. It is going to be in April that Pluto will also, in addition to Saturn, Pluto is going to conjunct the South Node of the Moon as well. And when we think about the planet Saturn, Saturn is very often connected to this idea of karma, because it has to do with reaping what it is that you sow. It has to do with this understanding that whatever energy you give, whatever work you put in, you will get back. That you can earn something based on your own effort, based on your time, based on your sacrifice. And so, as I look at these particular time frames, we may see certain events play out that can feel very karmic on a larger scale, on a collective scale, but also in our own lives as well. And, you know, again, in preparation for this video, I was kind of meditating on this idea of karma and how there's such a fear of karma that I am seeing in the world today. So much of the visceral way that I see people responding to others is rooted in this idea of fear of karma. Like that is the unconscious motivation, the unconscious drive to some of the reactions that we see happening on the collective level. However, here's the thing, karma only has as much power as your awareness. Once you are aware, you are released of your karma. Allow me to demonstrate with a little story about the Buddha. So there is this story when we consider how the Buddha became who he is, right? The Buddha is called so because it means the enlightened one. Well, how did he become enlightened? There's a whole very beautiful story about how he came to the Four Noble Truths and all of that. I will save that for maybe another time or other resources online for you to explore if that interests you. But a key part of the story, how he became the enlightened one, is that he came to a point where he sat under a Bodhi tree and he said, I am not going to leave here until I am freed of the vicious life, death, rebirth cycle, because he saw that as part of what was causing suffering in the world. It was this idea that he wasn't going to leave until he figured it out, how to free ourselves from suffering. And a lot of that suffering came down to the karma that we play or that we replay. And it was while he was meditating that he faced demons, that he faced his own fears, that he faced his own lust, and most importantly, that he faced his own ego. And in doing so, he realized his true nature. And in the realization of his true nature, he became enlightened and released from his karma. So what is our true nature? There are different articulations. Certain articulations are going to resonate more at given times with different people. However, what I call it is love. That is our true nature. It is love. And once you have that awareness, once you realize what has been, what pattern you've been replaying, what you've been doing over and over, and you see it for what it is, and you see it with love, and you remove your ego, you remove your wounds, you remove that part of you that needs to be better than anybody else. Once that gets out of the way, and you bring that sense of light and clarity to it, you are released from it. And in some cases, it truly is released in an instant. Now, what happens for most of us, though, when we really want meaningful change in our lives is that we work for it. We take these baby steps. We're slowly trudging along. We're doing the work. And then we have a breakthrough moment and we are released. And that is the space in which we enter love. Now, of course, we're still here, right? We're human. And so none of us, if you are on this earth, you are not enlightened, in my humble opinion. If you are here, it means that you are a human being or other earthling, and that means that there's more that you have to learn and do in this lifetime. Once we become enlightened, once we've reached nirvana, as the Buddhists call it, you no longer have any need to be in your physical body anymore. So you ascend to the next level of learning. And whether you want to call that another planet, another realm, another spiritual space of learning, that's where you go. That is all based on a worldview. I recognize that. But that is the worldview that resonates with me most at this point in my spiritual understanding. So we're here, we're human, we're trudging the road of destiny. right? We're trying to figure it out as we go along. And as part of figuring it out, as part of realizing our true nature, which is love and wisdom, as part of doing that, we are going to have these moments where we have to allow light in, and especially where we're holding on very tightly, where we want things to stay the same, when we're holding on to a structure. Think of a structure, right? It's a building, basically. We're holding on to this. We're not allowing any crack in. We're not opening a window, nothing. So no light can come in. We can't see it differently without that opening. Well, these key periods that I mentioned with Saturn on the South Node is part of allowing that awareness in, is part of what can facilitate some of the most meaningful change in our lives and help us to make the most of 2019. I know it can sound very heavy duty, right? It's not easy to face our fears or look at our pain as part of opening, as part of allowing greater love in. It can feel indulgent even. Sometimes it's easier just not to look at it, to not talk about it, to just keep going on automatic. But when we have these powerful transits, as we are going to have this year, it is very hard to stay on automatic. And so I would invite you to participate in your life with your awareness, because here's the thing, this is a philosophical understanding of astrology as shared by Alan Leo in his book, Esoteric Astrology. He talks about this idea that, if you are approaching your chart, your sky, your transits with consciousness, with awareness, it's like the universe doesn't need to sort of have your life just fall apart. It doesn't need to have that structure, the building just crumble to the ground. It doesn't have to do that. An open window will do the same thing that the whole building falling to the floor will do, right? And you can open that window with your awareness, with your consciousness, and with your willingness. Now, if it is that a higher, more loving plan for your life wants you to build an even more majestic home than you ever knew before, then yeah, part of that might be allowing that closure to happen. However, for a lot of us out there, we can make this year infinitely easier on ourselves if we surrender. And the great thing is that the magic is there and the rewards are there if we allow ourselves to surrender because of Neptune. That harmonious connection with Neptune says that we are going to see how we benefit from practicing compassion towards ourselves and towards others. We are going to see the very practical and immediate and self benefits that we derive when we actually care for each other. And when we actually allow and trust and seek the wisdom of any given experience, we are made better and stronger in every sense of the word. And that is part of the divine invitation this year. Now, as I said, April is going to be the most strongest month, as articulated by one of the participants at the CIA workshop. The Me Too moment for our social structures, for our corporate world possibly, is going to take place. It is in April that we see some of the strongest energy of seeing behind the curtain, of really seeing what's been going on in the very darkest corners, and realizing how complex and how messy some things actually are behind the scenes. But this ultimately is to empower us. This ultimately is to help us to accept the truth, to accept ourselves, to accept our lives, and move towards greater inspiration as a result. I was also thinking about this idea, thanks to Neptune, right? This idea that really we are so intimately connected to each other. And when we share, when we give, when we are there for each other, it can make just about anything that transpires that much easier to navigate. It's amazing. I've been living in Mexico for almost 6 years now, right? It's very much home to me. It felt like home right away. And one of the things that is so different to me in Mexico compared to Canada, where I was born and raised and still spend a whole lot of time, and my family is there, and my heart, my love, a lot of my loyalty is with Canada as well. But the one thing that has been very notable to me here in Mexico is the way in which families rely on each other, the ways in which families are truly there for each other in extraordinary ways that I haven't necessarily seen so much growing up, born and raised in Toronto. It's not that there isn't a lot of love everywhere in the world, that families aren't there for each other everywhere in the world, but this idea of truly being together and being responsible for each other, it takes a very profound depth in this part of the world and in this culture. So I look at Neptune moving through Pisces, and it is this sense of knowing that there is comfort and solace and wisdom and love to be found when we recognize our inherent connection to everyone and everything, when we are truly there for each other, when we are willing to sacrifice for each other. We, in our own individual journeys, are made better, are made stronger. We ease our own burden by easing another's burden. And I think that's going to be part of the invitation of this year as well. It's going to be part of what we see happening collectively around the world. More and more people realizing that being sensitive to each other's needs is actually helping them in their own individual journeys, is actually helping to bring structure into their lives, is actually helping to bring greater stability into their lives as well. Now, we also this year have eclipses that are going to highlight this energy. And as I said, where the South Node is, where Saturn is, where Pluto is, and by the time we get to December, where Jupiter is going to be as well, it is here that we will have fully 3 eclipses this year. We start the year with a solar eclipse, we end the year with a solar eclipse in this part of the sky. And whereas the South Node has to do with karmic endings, realizing what we don't want to walk anymore, realizing what we're ready to evolve beyond, it is solar eclipses that bring with them new opportunities. Now, this is happening in the sign of Capricorn, which has to do with new, very practical, very tangible opportunities to move ourselves towards a higher legacy than we've known before. And all of us in at least one area of life, and collectively as well, will be considering the larger consequences of our actions, and will be welcoming in new opportunities, but at the same time, they come part and parcel with powerful closures as well. It is going to be in the middle of the year, in the middle of July, that we are going to have a lunar eclipse. Now, this lunar eclipse is also taking place in the same part of the sky. And to me, eclipses are so important. They are imperative. They are powerful because eclipses involve the nodes of the moon. And the nodes of the moon represent our karmic promises. It's what we promised ourselves we would do with this lifetime. It's the higher intention of the soul for this lifetime. And that's not always necessarily a conscious process, but it is ultimately always a process that moves us towards greater love and greater wisdom. Collectively, when we see the transiting nodes activated as they are going to be so powerfully this year, it is as if collectively we've made a decision on a soul level. Not a conscious level, but this is playing out on levels of energy, on levels of soul, on levels of spirit. We are realizing as a collective where it is that we no longer are meant to be, but also with solar eclipses, where it is that we are meant to be. You know, a vision of what is possible, ambitions that are truly worthy of us, that are rooted in higher principles, that are rooted in soul calling, are going to appear. And when it is that lunar eclipse in the middle of the year, in the middle of July, considering that Saturn is going to be so on the South Node at the time as well, that is going to be a powerful time of closures as well. Again, where it comes to our understanding of power and structures. And this could be a time when we see some important corporation, a world corporation, in some way go through a powerful transformation as well. Now we have other eclipses this year also. I know it sounds very heavy duty. As I said, it's a consequential year, but it will ultimately give birth to the new and the next that is coming up in 2020. But we have other eclipses as well that denote some major astrological happenings this year. And the first one is happening right around the 21st of January. And this eclipse is sort of the last eclipse in the sign of Leo for a while. We had eclipses in this part of the sky for the better part of the last 2 years. So this isn't exactly eclipse, it's like an almost eclipse because the nodes have moved on. The North Node is no longer in the sign of Leo, it's now in the sign of Cancer. But this lunar eclipse is going to help us to truly see how what has been and what we learned over the last 2 years, it's going to allow us to bring those lessons full circle. And it's going to allow us to understand where it is that we are done with a way of being, of expressing ourselves, of expressing our ego. Where it is that we can use our ego in healthy ways, which has to do with using our will towards some higher purpose and towards some higher calling. It has to do with knowing that when we think that we're separate or we're better, that is an unhealthy expression of the ego. But when it is that we recognize that there is something unique that we can contribute and we take ownership for that, well, that's a healthy use of ego. So all of us in at least one area of life are going to get that opportunity to own our light and to do it with humility right around the 3rd week of January. The other eclipse taking place this year happens at the very beginning of July. Now this eclipse is activating the North Node, which is in the sign of Cancer. And this is a part of the sky that has to do with understanding home and being more at home in the world. And considering that around the same time we're going to have Venus as well on the North Node, I feel like this is going to represent a moment of some harmony between different nations that maybe in the past were already connected, like maybe they were a larger single nation and then they sort of broke off into fractions, and now there's going to be sort of a renewal of the inherent unity that maybe a shared culture brings, even though those borders are there. Remember, throughout this year, as I spoke of in the Jupiter special horoscope, we have Jupiter moving through the sign of Sagittarius. This tends to expand and dissolve borders with it. So it tends to encourage us to see more of ourselves and others, to recognize ourselves in whom we deem the foreigner. It encourages us to realize and allow ourselves to experience each other more and to create alliances that much more, whether it's between nations or individuals. And so I think this is going to end up supporting this overall feeling of home and a love for home and a love for our culture and a renewal of appreciation of our unique roots in our individual paths and collectively as well. Well, we'll see that theme arise, especially in the month of July. Now, finally, there are a bunch of other special horoscopes that I've already done. I didn't want to repeat stuff that I've already discussed before, but it's worth having another look at the Jupiter special, Chiron special, Uranus special, Saturn special for a more complete picture of the year ahead. But a couple of things worth mentioning. In March, Uranus will change signs for good. We got a little bit of a taste of Uranus moving into the sign of Taurus in the middle of 2018. Now that move will be a lot more permanent, right into the middle of the next decade. And so it is going to be important to watch what is happening, particularly in February, because it is in February that Mars close to Uranus is going to square the nodes. And so it is going to be at this time that we become more aware of our sense of where it is that there's work involved for us to evolve further, where it is that healthy forms of home and patriotism are found, and where it is that sometimes expressions are not as healthy. And it is going to be at this time as well that as Uranus really starts wrapping up, that we are going to find some particularly strong and notable expressions of personal self-expression. So keep that in mind. We may see like a little bit more demonstrating and things like that. People wanting to have themselves heard and what they feel and what it is that they're thinking heard more. So we should see some of that in February, just before Uranus leaves the sign of Aries. And of course, as I spoke of in the Uranus special horoscope, this is going to be the beginning of a huge change to the way that we understand so many things, like money and banking and so much more. So there's a lot to look forward to on that front as well. I mentioned Jupiter already. I've talked a lot about Saturn as well, and Chiron, of course, is going to encourage us to continue to take ownership for our own healing journey. What I love about this year for us, well, look, there's a lot here, I know, but what I do really love is that ultimately there's change, and ultimately this is where the change begins. It is going to be next year that we start a whole new chapter of humanity. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, I know that there are layers and complexities, but the things that matter at the end of the day, which I think is part of what this year is meant to help to affirm for us, the things that matter is that we are truly at peace with ourselves. We are at home with ourselves and recognize the home that we have with each other. That we're able to express our compassion to others, but also a newfound acceptance and love for ourselves. It can be a delicate balance, but once it is found, it truly does release a sense of magic and healing all around the world. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Let me know what you are excited about 2018. Let me know in the comments below. It's not always easy talking about stuff that can be challenging for some people. And I want to acknowledge that some of these aspects, some of these celestial conversations can be more challenging than others. If you are a cardinal sign, that means you are a Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra. Some of the more profound changes are set to take place for you. If you are a water sign or an earth sign, so the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. You are going to find easier ways to tap into some of this energy that is asking you to change. You'll be able to see the benefits of making those changes. You'll be able to roll with it that much more easily. If you are someone who was born between right around the 7th of any given month, right to the 15th of any given month, you are going to feel what is happening with Saturn and the nodes that much more. But again, not to get too caught up on these details and things, because the truth is that, you know, if you have any placements, any planets in your chart in the middle degrees, which a lot of people do, chances are the sky this year will speak to you that much more profoundly. As I mentioned in the beginning, stay tuned for the preview horoscopes right now for each and every sign. You'll get the first minute of the special horoscopes that I have created. The special horoscopes are available on my website, nadiyashah.com, and in the Superstar space. I appreciate your love and your trust and your support of the special horoscopes so much. Thank you so much to everybody who's ever supported them. I'm so grateful for it. But with the special horoscopes, I did talk about the eclipses in particular for each and every sign. So each and every sign is going to get insights particularly into the energy of the eclipses and whatever else I thought was going to be relevant to you in particular. But of course, if you are a superstar, we're going to flesh it out every single week. Week after week, we'll be exploring the sky. And of course, the monthly horoscopes will continue to be available on YouTube as well. I'm really looking forward to an amazing 2019 ahead for you. Now, saving the best for last here, it is going to be right around December 15th that we are going to have a beautiful and very fortunate connection playing out between Jupiter and Uranus. Now, the power of this configuration is something that is actually written about in the wonderful book called Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas. Now, I interviewed Dr. Richard Tarnas a few years back. That interview is on my YouTube channel as well. I'll try to remember to share it, but it is so powerful indeed. It just started raining outside, but I'm starting to wrap up. We get these like little tropical rains here in Mexico. Maybe you're hearing it with me, I don't know. But there's this beautiful connection playing out between Jupiter and Uranus. I feel like this is a year, as much as there are closures, there are also beginnings. And wherever it is that you know you are ready to make a big change, well, you are going to have that beautiful energy that's going to bring a lot of luck and a lot of hope for us as a collective, but also in our individual journeys as well. And also remember, as we start this year, for 2 months, once we get to the 5th, going forward for 2 full months, we will have all planets direct. And that means any new endeavors that you start will have that much an easier ability to gain momentum going forward from here, and will have the full backing of a wise and loving universe. I hope that you absolutely enjoy this year. Enjoy the wonderful things coming up ahead. I will be here to talk about it every single step of the way, and I'm looking forward to it. Stay tuned for preview horoscopes right now, and I'm going to go enjoy the rain. Well, thank you for watching. It'll be a great year. Enjoy. Hello, fabulous superstar Aries. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is for you, and you are going to feel the change and the shift right out of the gate. And that is because as you start this year, Mars will move into your sign. Mars will return to its home sign, to your sign. And this is a sense of having the force and the power of the universe with you. This is a sense of coming to yourself, coming to your senses even, and coming to an awareness of who you really are and what matters to you most, what matters to you first. This is going to be further supported by the fact that as we start the year, Uranus is standing still in the sky and moves forward in the very first days of January. Hello, fabulous superstar Taurus. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is. You got a little bit of a respite, a little bit of downtime once Uranus left your sign last year, but come March, it's going to start to accelerate once again. But that sense of acceleration you're actually going to feel before we even get there, and that is thanks to Mars. In the middle of February, right around Valentine's Day, Mars is going to enter your sign right to the end of March. And this is powerful. This is feeling a sense of energy and force with you, a sense of restlessness, I must say, a sense of wanting change and wanting it right now. But that sense of things really starting to change in a big way. You might have glimpsed. Hello, fabulous superstar Gemini. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019. Looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is. And it truly is. It is the kind of year that is going to ask you to dig deep, to know what it is that is really inside of you, what it is that truly motivates you, and ultimately what it is that you value, where it is that your resources deserve to go. And through it all, you are going to learn and redefine wealth in important ways, redefine prosperity in important ways, and it will surprise you and it will take you aback, whether that is with practical opportunities or whether that is in terms of spiritual realization. And most importantly, it is a year of fundamental change and deep honesty. Hello, fabulous superstar Cancer. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is. You know, in many ways, this year already started for you. It started back in November of 2018. When the North Node entered your sign, and will be there throughout this year and right to June of 2020. And it is during this time that in many ways the universe is going to work overtime to align you with a higher, more loving plan for your life. Now, some of this will come out of nowhere. Some of this may surprise you. And yet, what it is that shows up for you now will change you and will help you ultimately to realize the direction in which your soul desires to go. Not just right now, but very likely you'll get powerful. Hello, fabulous superstar Leo. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is. Just when you thought you were done with eclipses in your sign and in your opposite sign. Well, look, at least the opposite sign, yes, that's done. However, it is going to be this month, the month of January. As you start this month, you'll be feeling an eclipse coming. And that lunar eclipse happens right around the 21st of January. It is the last eclipse you're going to have like this in your sign for years to come. It is a valuable time indeed. It's going to put a cap on the last 2 years of your life when you started having this series of eclipses. And over the last 2 years, just about every Leo has gone through important changes. In some cases, hello, fabulous superstar Virgo. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is. It was late last year that the nodes of the moon changed signs, with the north node moving into a part of the sky for you that had to do with friendships and groups that you belong to, and the south node moving into a part of the sky for you that had to do with the desires of your heart in every area of life. Now, of course, that includes love, and we'll talk about love a little bit later because there's a lot going on there this year. But in other areas, this has to do with children and creativity. So whether it's children that you want or children that you have, it has to do with your creativity and using it to your advantage. And overall, it has to do with self. Hello, fabulous superstar Libra. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is an amazing year. It is going to be over the course of this year that we have important eclipses taking place, bringing our awareness to where the nodes have moved to. Late last year, the north node of the moon changed signs and moved into the very top of your sky, with the south node moving into the very bottom of your sky. Now, this is considered a very sensitive part of your sky. This is like the angles, the skeleton of the chart. And this represents a sense of how high it is that you desire to go, the legacy that you create, the sense of alignment with a higher, more loving vision for your. Hello, fabulous superstar Scorpio. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is. It's one of those times that promises that you will feel very deeply and very profoundly. It is your ruling planet that is intimately involved with the nodes of the moon this year. You add to this Mars, your ancient ruling planet, entering your sign shortly after your modern ruling planet changing directions. Well, it all adds up to a time where you'll be learning a whole lot about yourself. You'll be learning how to express and communicate yourself more clearly. And at the same time, there will be change. And in some cases, profound change at that. Karmically, you are on a journey to know more of the. Hello, fabulous superstar Sagittarius. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. what an amazing year it is. And it truly is one of those years that will realign you with a sense of self-value, self-respect, and self-love. At the same time, this is the kind of year that will help you to understand your potential, your ability to create prosperity for yourself, and your sense of values as you use that newfound prosperity towards whether it's acquiring new things or spending your energy even. This is the kind of time where you will notice part of the celestial lessons may be oriented around money that you spend and money that you earn will be an area of focus. Hello, fabulous superstar Capricorn. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is for you. It was late last year that the South Node entered your sign and the North Node entered your opposite sign. And it is going to be that South Node in your sign that is especially lit up throughout this year, with major moments happening consistently, almost month after month. That South Node is going to be part of 3 eclipses in your sign. It is going to be part of a meeting between the South Node and Pluto, and will be part of an ongoing dance with Saturn, meeting Saturn 3 times in your sign, and also dancing in harmony. Hello, fabulous superstar Aquarius. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is. There is a whole lot stirring within you, in your soul, in your spirit, that is going to come up to your awareness in sometimes surprising ways, but ultimately liberating. It is a time of powerful karma for you, and in some cases very good karma finding you as well. But at the same time, there's a strong inner restlessness throughout this year. It is going to be, as we start this year, that love comes into special focus. Your ruling planet changing signs for the next few years for good. And it is going to be at the end of the year that your ruling planet makes a beautiful, supremely fortunate connection to Jupiter that can turn just about. Hello, fabulous superstar Pisces. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2019, looking at life and love. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing year it is, and it truly is. It was late last year that the nodes of the moon changed signs. The North Node moved into fellow water sign Cancer, and the South Node, most notably for this year, moved into a part of the sky for you that has to do with friendships and groups that you belong to. And it is going to be a year like this that will transform your friendships in meaningful ways, and how you understand your place within the larger community, how you understand your power to create change within that larger community, and all of your group endeavors. I would even say that this is the kind of year that's going to have you being more social than you've known yourself.